here we go. Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of A Rambling Yarn. I'm Emily and I'm your host of this little podcast where I talk about my knitting, some crochet if I've got it, any little like fiber related projects that I've got my hands going in right now. This is episode 14, I believe. We're gonna go with that. I think it's episode 14. Which is pretty cool. If you want to follow along with me on any of my little fiber-related adventures, you can find me on Instagram at a.rambling.yarn, and I did finally change my Ravelry over to be the same thing. At least I think it's the same. It's the same name. It might be a slightly different format. I can look that up, and I will put that on the screen too if you want to follow along there. I don't do too much there, and I'm terrible at updating project pages, and it's just, you know, it is what it is, but I've got one if you want to go be my friend on Ravelry. I've got a couple of things, not a whole lot, but I just really wanted to sit down. I felt like it was time to just kind of do a little update. I make these videos for people to follow along, but mostly for me as kind of like a video diary to see, you know, what I was working on at some point, to see what my progress is, and just for fun. I just enjoyed this. So thanks for tagging along with me. I'm gonna start with this one. I guess this is technically almost a hoe, half finished object. This is called the Broken Rope Socks by Sandra-Lee? Hold on. Summer.lee. There we go. Summer.lee Design Co. Snacks. She has a couple of different, she has a DK weight and a fingering weight version of this pattern. And her patterns, just in general, are really wonderful ways to play with color, whether it's like low-key color work or really fun striping designs. Both of the like suggested coloring for these socks involve stripes. I tried doing stripes, but I decided that with the main color that I was using and the contrast color, which I did not have enough of to switch around, just kind of got eaten away. It sunk in and it didn't have a pop. So they would have been better off reversed if I had wanted to do stripes with them. So I opted to just do just a solid body, no stripes, and just do a heel, cuff, and toe in a contrasting color instead. And I think I need to go back with the toe and start it a little bit sooner, because I'm down to, I don't know, it's like 10 stitches that I need to Kitchener off. But it's just a little bit too long, but I feel like if I were to just take the toe back, then it would look like a really short toe. So I think I'm going to pull that out and start the toe a little bit sooner. The purple is the colorway Celestial Colors, and this kind of really pretty kind of gray brown taupe beige, I believe it's called linen. I see it on other things and I want to call it flax, but I'm pretty sure it's linen. These are both Patons Kroy, which you can get at pretty much any big box craft store. Very affordable, readily available, easy to find. Probably one of my favorites for socks. I enjoy it quite a bit. So I had started this, the last episode that I had filmed. I had started it, and then I actually ended up frogging it. Oh, just like most of what I showed you in the last episode. I frogged it because it just seemed, even though I was doing a 64 stitch sock, which is my typical sock, and I was using size 2 US needles and magic loop, which is also, when it comes to Kroy, I've made 2 or 3 other pairs of socks with Kroy. I haven't been knitting a whole lot of socks lately, but that's typically my formula for Kroy. I typically do 64 stitches with a size 2 needle just because it's a little heavier of a sock yarn. And I've never had a problem with it, but for whatever reason, even though this is a ribbed sock, it just felt kind of weirdly loose on my leg and on my foot. And I wasn't loving that because I don't really like slouchy socks. I don't typically wear socks or shoes if it's warm enough. Even if it's not, I am just someone who, I tend to be barefoot quite often. So when I do wear socks, I don't want to feel like they're about to just slide off my feet. I want them to hug it really well. And it wasn't doing that. So I ripped everything out, which I had to basically go back anyways because I wasn't liking how the striping was working up. Ripped it all back and looked at the pattern again to see what the stitch count was for the next size, or the size right below what I was knitting, which I believe was 58. I want to say 56 or 58. Which was like, okay, I guess we'll give it a try. And I did it, and that's what we're going with, and it fits like a glove. It's wonderful. I don't know if my gauge has changed, maybe after such a long time between knitting socks, or I don't know, who knows? Who knows why things like this change? But something did, and apparently I'm knitting looser with this than usual. Something I also did that wasn't usual, and I don't know why I did this, probably because it's been a really long time. I actually did a short row heel, and now I'm completely blanking on what this was called. A boomerang heel, also known as a German short row heel, I think. I don't typically do these. I think I've done it twice before. One pair of socks, I did like how it turned out. Another pair of socks, it felt weird, but I also knit those ones toe up, which I've never done since, and I did not like. Maybe I should try that again and see if that's changed for me. But I'm usually a heel flap and gusset kind of girl. They seem to fit my feet really well, and I don't, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, I guess. I don't know. So I'm really not sure what possessed me, honestly, to try something different. But I did, and here we are, and I don't hate it so far. But first, let's get the other one done and make sure my toes aren't flip-flapping around in the breeze. So we'll fix that. But here it is. It's just a German short row boomerang heel. I don't know. I didn't measure the cuff itself, but the leg was, I think I did 5 inches, and then I stopped like here on the back with the broken rib pattern, because for some reason I seem to remember with the fish lips kiss heel, there's some note in the pattern about like an inch before you actually start your heel to knit the back part in just plain old stockinette. Which, again, I'm not 100% sure why. And I do feel like that part in particular, because it kind of goes, can I do gymnastics? Like this part of your heel, this skinny part. Personally, I kind of feel like that part, I would rather have, maybe this might be why I actually prefer the heel flap and gusset. There's giant seagulls flying by my window, sorry. That skinny part of your heel, your Achilles tendon, I feel like it needs the ribbing to like hug it. Maybe I just have weirdly skinny ankles. I don't know. But I'm thinking now that that's probably one of the reasons why I typically go for the heel flap and gusset over a short row heel. Maybe. Why am I just not thinking about that? Who knows? But I do remember in the Fish Lips Kiss heel pattern, it says that like an inch before you start like your actual short rows to do the back in just stockinette. So I did that. I don't know if I should have done that, but I did it anyways, and what's done is done, I suppose. So that's my almost half finished object. Just gotta fix my toe, and then we'll be good to start on sock number 2, and hopefully I don't get second sock syndrome, because it's been a while. And these worked up really quick. I actually had to like slow my roll because I was going really fast on them and kind of ignoring some of my other things. So I decided to make these my pickup line project, and I had them in my car and in the bag that I throw in with me with drinks and snacks when I'm waiting in line in the car to pick up my son from school. And that way I got a good amount done in a short amount of time, and I didn't just like whip through them. Not that that would have been a bad thing either, but kind of felt like there were other things that were maybe more important. Not really. I just wanted them to be more of a priority and get more time than just a sock. So pickup line projects, they're excellent. So yeah, I had other things that I wanted to work on. So obviously it would make 100% of sense to cast something else on. Because, yeah, duh. And I did that. Because why wouldn't I do that? Why wouldn't I just work through what I had and complete everything? Why is it really hard for me to like be really monogamous on projects? I really appreciate people who can do that. Like, hats off to you for having that kind of focus. I definitely don't, and I wish I did sometimes. This is the DRK Everyday Cowl, I believe, and I am knitting this in a yarn that I have never used before. It was a yarn that I believe was gifted to me by one of my aunts. The wonderful thing about having family members who also like to be crafty and also do things with yarn and such is when they do see yarn that they have or that has been given to them because other people know that they also like yarn. Sometimes they also give it to you. Except I have a lot of yarn, so sometimes when I am given more yarn, it kind of just say, well, it's that never-ending problem of stash, right? So this has been sitting in my stash for a while, and it's not a yarn that I probably would have picked up at a store if I had gone shopping. So it's just kind of been sitting there, me eyeballing it going, I don't know what to do with that. I really don't know. And I had actually completely forgotten that it was there until I needed to find something else. I think I was looking for a pom-pom maker, which I still haven't found. I don't know where that is. And it's still really bothering me. There's not very many places for it to go. So anyways, I was looking for that. And I went through all of these boxes that I have in my closet that have various hidden yarns. And I found this. And then I put it back because I didn't need it. And then my mom said something about how, like, there was a cowl that I knit her years and years ago, like back in my early 20s. And it's really pretty and I like it a lot. but it's on the looser side, more like an infinity scarf sort of deal. And she sent me a picture. She goes, I really like this, but I kind of wish that it hugged my neck more. And it hadn't really started warming up at that point. It has now, so she may not need this. But also, Mom, if you're watching this, this is not for you. She was, yeah. So I was like, okay, I'll keep that in mind. And then Andrea Mowry goes and releases yet another pattern because that woman is on fire all the time, all day long, every day. And she goes and releases the DRK Everyday Cowl. I was like, this would work with that for this person. Stars are aligning. And here we are using this. So this is 100% acrylic, I believe. So it'll be easy wear, easy care, especially if she wears it, if my mom wears it while she's walking. She's not a sweaty lady, but still, I mean, if you're walking in the winter, you might get a little sweaty with something around your neck. 100% acrylic. It looks like a single spun. So that's the construction of it. And various shades of green and kind of light icy blues and taupes, which kind of all are in my mom's wheelhouse there. So that's kind of perfect. And this has been obviously not a completely mindless project, because there are very specific places to increase and slip stitches and stuff, but simple enough that it's just kind of flying by because it's all just garter stitch and slips and, increases. And it's just kind of, it's growing easily and quickly. And it's going to be, I did not swatch for this either. Don't at me, man. I don't really care. I figured that it would be fine. And the pattern has measurements. And honestly, I was like, I'll just, even if I did swatch and I didn't meet gauge, I liked the fabric that this was making. I'm using the needle size that the pattern calls for, which is a 6. I think it's a 6 US, which is a 4mm needle. And I think it calls for DK. I want to say DK. Wait, it's not worsted, but this is more on the worsted side. Doesn't really matter. I figured that I would just go for it and knit it across until it reached either the stitch count that it wanted and then just see how it fit, or the measurement of like width and stuff, and just go from there, because you knit it to the size and then you somehow seam it up because it's knit flat. I think it's all knit flat. I don't think that this gets joined in the round. I have read through the pattern, which I do think is something that people should do when they get a new pattern. I do think that it is important, even if you're just like skimming through it, but to avoid any like, oh, oops, wish I had known that. Just go through your patterns first. Surprises are not fun to fix when you stumble across them and you've already been doing something in a certain way that turns out wasn't correct. Read your pattern. I like to go through actually with highlighters and like a favorite pen, and I'll like, when something seems really important, or if there's like a certain size, I like get everything written down and certain information just like notated just for me, so that when I'm looking through the pattern as I go, once you've gotten yourself into a groove, it's really easy for you to just glance down at your page and your eyes find exactly the information that you need for the size you are knitting. And I find that that is very helpful. I do paper patterns. I like to print them out. I like to carry them around. I'm weirdly old school like that. I will use my phone, like if I'm traveling, which I'm going to move. yeah, if I'm traveling, I will use my phone to look things up because sometimes it's not always easy to look around a bunch of paper, or like if we're taking a trip out of state, I may not want to accidentally lose something. Not that I can't print it again, but who really wants to do that? But for the most part, I prefer to have actual sheets of paper, which may be weird, but I don't really care. I like how that feels. What was I talking about? So yeah, that's the DRK Everyday Cowl by Andrea Mowry. I have lipstick on my arm. Ah, this is what it is. It is Red Heart Boutique Unforgettable. They've also made a cowl in this yarn. This is the colorway Meadow. So this was like maybe halfway done-ish on the last episode. I finished my beloved bonnet by Tin Can Knits, and this I was knitting in a kid mohair silk blend. That's which is the green, and the gray was I think just 100% merino in a fingering weight yarn, and both were by Knitting for Olive, which I have come to really enjoy, and I need to see if I can find any shops in the US that have it so that I can buy it from them and not pay $15 in shipping. Still looking for one of those. So this is that, and I can't remember again the colorway names. But so I held it double. It's cute. And I made a pom-pom, which I need to, that's why I was looking for my pom-pom maker that I need to find. I need to do the little trims around the edges so that it's not lopsided, but I'm trying to decide if a pom-pom would be good or not. Is that weird? Should I put a pom-pom on? Yes. No. I do like pom-poms, but maybe not. I don't know. It'd be better if it's actually like placed on my head. I don't know. We'll see. I think I might loop it through and look at it a little bit closer. I feel like this would be better if it were gigantic, but I was making this with like a rectangle of cardboard, so it just wasn't super cool. But I do enjoy the two different textures of yarn together in a pom-pom, so I don't know, we'll see. I'll put it on, we'll play around with it. This is going to be for my neighbor. This felt like it took forever, and I also don't know why, but it's done now, and I do like it. It's very cute and very easy. This is a pattern by Tin Can Knits. I think I talked a little bit more about it in my last episode. If you want to go check that out, you can get the details there. You increase until you don't need to anymore, then you decrease. It's got a cute I-cord. This is actually, the I-cord is my favorite part to knit. Probably because it's so easy. And it's backwards? Yes. It's done just in time for spring, for everyone to put their warm weather clothes in their closet and their cold weather hats and mittens away. I'm not going to even bother showing the mittens that I had last time because I did not frog anything. They're still there. I haven't done anything with them and they are not worth talking about. I'm starting to think that I probably will just go for another year without looking at them. And they're just gonna be there. I did frog that section in my Birds of a Feather shawl. Finally. The last time I talked about the Birds of a Feather by Andrea Mowry and how I had picked it back up because I had missed working on it and I was really enjoying myself, and it had been long enough in between working on it this time and, you know, when I was like first starting and in the middle of it all, that something happened and the spine of decreases that like runs up the middle of the shawl, I had started doing it just ever so slightly wrong in like where I was slipping things or whatever, and it just kind of curved that one section just a little bit, and then I figured out what I was doing wrong and I fixed it so it straightened back out, but it left this curve. And I sat there for a while trying to decide if, you know, with like all the other things that I had been working on, if I wanted to rip it out, start again, because it was just that one section. Just that one section. I sat and I was like, well, other people probably won't notice. It's probably because, you know, it's a shawl. It's going to be like wrapped around you. I probably could get away with it. But then the more I sat and I looked at it, like, it just bothered me. It just bothered me so much. And it also bothered me knowing that, like, it was just that one section that was misaligned. And it would have been, like, super easy since I know, like, we're right there. It's not like I'm 7 sections ahead. Like, it's not that much to rip out. It was a lot of stitches, like the stitch count. I think I ended at like 160 something stitches. So like stitch count wise, like it was a fair amount. Row wise, it wasn't that much. So I figured it would probably just really bother me and eat me alive if I left it there. And every time I wore it, I would be like, yeah, don't look at that part. So I ripped it out. We're back. It's been adjusted. And it's so much better. So I went on to my next section, which is mohair, which is another one of these. It's a repeat of this kind of garter stitch mohair section. And I think, which I believe is section 7, I want to say. So after, starting to wonder if I'm going to need an even bigger, longer cord. After this next mohair section, so the section that the orange one, which is done in a single ply, superwash merino. The colorway is Pear, and it's dyed by fiber.for.the.people. So this is the one that I just finished and fixed. This was section 6. So the mohair, which is the colorway Yucca, also dyed by fiber.for.the.people, is 7. And I think after that, when I go back to the single ply, I think it's a lace section. So what this is, I'm excited. I don't know. I'm happy to be working on this again, even though, again, we are going into warmer weather. This is not like a really heavy duty shawl. I've never actually knit a shawl before, and I'm liking it. So I'm glad, I'm happy to be back with this. It is, I have realized, so really quick, this is another project that I'm using size 6 4mm needles on, and the other, they're both DRK. aren't they? The cowl that I'm doing, also size 6, 4mm needles that I had ordered separately. These are the ones that came in I'm using I have a chiaogoo interchangeable set, which I would recommend to anybody who has decided that they want to use circular needles for the rest of their lives, or they're really into knitting. I feel like you can't go wrong. They're amazing. They're just my favorite, and it's an investment, but it's 100% worth it. And I have like at least 5 times over gotten definitely my money's worth out of this. And I've just continued adding to my whole set. The whole kit and caboodle I need better storage for. But I had bought another set of the 4mm needles. I don't know if it wasn't listed or if I just didn't pay attention, but the other pair that arrived, they were longer. I think these, which are the pair that came in the set, these I believe are, I want to say 4 inches. And then the other set that I have are either, I think they're 5 inches. Maybe 6. They're much longer. That was really awkward at first, and it threw me off a little bit. And then I actually got really used to using them, and then I switched them out between the projects. Don't ask me why, because now I don't remember. And now I'm finding it kind of weird to knit such a length. I think it's easier if you're doing something in the round, but working something back and forth flat, I think I've decided that I like the longer needles, and I like that with the longer needles, they add more stability for my wrist. So having something that just is a little bit longer, I think I like that better. And I'm thinking, not that you care, I think I might switch the needles out again. Because I can. Because why not? Because when you've stumbled upon something that makes a difference, and I think it makes my wrists feel better too. So why not? Why not do that? All that to say, I think I'm going to change to the longer needles for this, because somehow it feels really awkward. And this, I'm back. I'm back. I'm hungry. I don't know if you heard that. That was my stomach. I am starving. That's basically all I've got for you. Oh, wait. Also the Felix sweater. After sitting with it for a long time, I have yet to do it. I have yet to pull the plug, but it's getting ripped. I just can't do it. It's going to be a pain in the tuchus. But again, I'm not going to be happy. I can't just elongate the torso. I'm not going to be happy. So here we go. It's going to be a while. It's probably not going to be something that's forefront of all projects. It's going to sit on the back burner a little bit, especially going into spring and summer. Obviously, I'm not going to need a mohair and wool sweater. And it didn't take that long to knit. It really, in all honesty, when given the time to actually sit, it just flew. It flew off my needles. So I'm not too worried about it. I think the longest thing is going to be untangling mohair that's held double with alternating skeins, which is why it's still in the bag. This is not a fiber related project, but it was fun, and it's not done yet. This is not a finished object. I on occasion paint. I do not paint well. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have time to take actual classes, really. Someday I will do that again. I haven't taken an art class since I was around 6 or 7, which is when I met my husband and how I met my husband. So I don't know what I'm doing, but I enjoy doing it anyways. I found this lady who does tutorials on YouTube. Her name is Angela Anderson. I'll link to her channel or something. You'll be able to find her down in the doobly details down there. And I've done one other painting tutorial that she did, which I just really enjoyed. And so now I'm doing this one. And I can't say that it's super great on my end. Hers obviously looks better because she's a professional. I am nowhere near that. And it is nowhere near done. And I definitely found that there were some things that she did that I tried to follow along with, that I had to like pause her and just kind of like zone out and do my own thing and just like not think about it. And I don't know if that was like a good thing to do or not, but it's worked for me mentally. So I'm continuing on. I think this I will probably go back and add like a little bit more detail. It's supposed to be hydrangea, but I feel like there could be maybe some other things. I don't know if this flower was something that she's going to go back and look at or not, but I feel like the way it was left, whether it was me or her, mostly me probably, I will probably go back and do something because that just looks blah to me. But this, I think, is supposed to be a peony, and I've enjoyed that. That's the one that actually I paused things and I was like, I'm just going to zone out and kind of plop stuff on there and maybe make it slightly more detailed. And we just did this rose, and again, I need to watch more. I have found that it's easier to not just like go along with what she is doing, but to kind of like watch through and get a rough idea of what she's doing and why she's doing it and like how it's going to look afterwards, and then go back and watch it again and then do it through. So I don't know, it's not done. Finding time. I think this is supposed to be a carnation, and it's jolly and happy, and I can't see my face. I like that one. That's all that I have, and this is fun. And I forget how fun painting is. Even if you're not super great at it, it's still just, color is fun. I like it a lot. This is acrylic, by the way. I don't think I said that. Thanks for hanging out with me once again. If you want to like or subscribe, follow, get notifications, all of that jazz, please click to your heart's content. I appreciate it. It helps my small little channel to grow, even though I don't do this for anything other than just pure enjoyment and fun. It is very lovely and very helpful when you do that. I can hear my little one down there. She is hungry, and I am hungry as well. So until next time, thanks for hanging out with me. Hope you got some work done on whatever project you've got going on. We will see you next time. Bye.